and welcome to another Biddle on Saturday, September 7th, 2019. How's everybody doing? Hold on. You guys can't talk yet. I have to unmute you. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Now, how's everybody doing?
Really well.
I'm Tango, India, Romeo,
So
Echo,
awesome.
Delta, Tired and Native Phoenix.
So that's how this week's been for me. So it's been a busy week, and I haven't had a whole lot of time to do our distro challenge, but I'm hoping you guys have, because our distro challenge is Endless OS. And I don't know, I thought I heard some rumblings earlier in the Telegram group earlier in the week. I'm hoping that has changed, and we can get some good reviews on it. So, Easy, let's start with you, brother. Have you tried Endless OS?
I have. I downloaded the 17 gig version and put it on my 32 gig USB, plugged it in. It asked, can I wipe your whole hard disk? So I rapidly ripped the USB out of the machine and said, no way, Jose. So I then rebooted into OpenSUSE and fired up Qemu, or whatever you want to call it, and loaded it all in a VirtualBox. And very smoothly it was too, until I tried to upgrade it or update it. It told me there was updates, so I ran the update command and nothing. It could not and would not connect to the update server. So without being able to update it, I just wasn't, it's one of those things where I don't like doing stuff in VirtualBox anyway, because it just doesn't feel right for me. It's not that distro on my machine, so I've got nothing to compare it to. So unfortunately, I just decided that it's not a dual booting system. It's never going to live on one of my hard disks. So I'll leave it to you guys to tell us whether it's actually any good.
Okay.
Physically, it looked okay.
All right. So, according to chat, we have no video and no sound.
That's what I'm trying to message you.
That's so awesome. I no idea what's going on. Haven't changed anything on YouTube.
I did a refresh.
Is it there?
Yeah, it is for me.
It is for you.
Not for me yet.
Not for all.
Not for me. I'll try.
Hang on, maybe we picked up the wrong one and it's done one of those.
Nope.
Silly...
It is for you.
Sound and video for me, okay.
Right. Anybody who hang on. Anybody who jumped on the original time plates that Rocco had, it's not there. So shut it down,
right.
Go back to YouTube, and then go on to the normal one, and it's now there.
Or go to the website and click on the live button.
You are correct.
And I realized I was trying to shut everybody up, and I should have just turned off my YouTube
I know.
channel. It was all-
Wait, someone check Twitch. Because maybe it might be streaming there, but it might not be streaming on YouTube. Maybe it's
Zeb's right.
No, it's all working on
That's all.
YouTube now. You just need to close the whatever window you've got open and open up a new one. So can we get a confirmation from the chat that it's working?
It's working.
All
I
right,
got
cool.
it.
I got it too. It's working.
All right. So, we got to let the people know in the YouTube chat because they can't hear us talking.
Can they still not hear us talking?
If you use the link I just put in Zoom, that takes you directly to it. It's the same link we use on the website.
Can you post that in the YouTube chat?
I'm not in the old one, so I'm only in the one that's working.
Yeah, hang
I've
on.
been telling them in chat to refresh, restart, and that stuff anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Dan posted a link, but I'm not seeing any videos.
I've got both video and audio and
The
chat.
short answer is yes, I can. Just give me 1 second, Rocco. I just have to find the right one.
I actually got to find the right one myself because it should be the right one that I'm picking up.
Still says set reminder. The chat's still running in it.
Yeah.
Just so you know, it's not your fault because I was on that link the whole time, but I had popped out the chat. When the stream went live, it reset the chat on you. It wasn't your fault. It's not like you did something wrong. It's YouTube. They've got this beta live chat, go live system, and I've had problems with it this week too. So it's not just you.
Yeah, but surely don't you just go down to the bottom left-hand corner and say, "Go away, I want to use the old one." That's what I always do.
It's not working the way it's supposed to. There are bugs.
Hmm.
All right, let me see if I can get the regular chat up on.
I got it.
Yes, but
No. Rocco needs it on
a new screen. Should we say that?
Yeah. Let me try to get the actual one that people are seeing live. I mean, up on the chat. Hey, look at there. There's a live now right there. Look at that. Fabulous.
Expelliarmus.
And it says you are live, so there you go. So that's going to be really crazy for people to figure out if they were actually.
Endless set of problems tonight already.
It's endless problems. Yes, you are right, Joe. Perfect.
Yeah. Oh, really? I was expecting that from Colin, Joe. Come on.
I figured somebody had to start it.
Okay, when I put my message in, people seem to be looking at it.
All right. We will get started with this. We will. I'm just not sure when. Okay.
So there you go. Farron has also said endless issues.
We will.
I don't know if he was repeating you or he's trying to be funny himself.
Okay, the top chat has kind of slowed down to where people are looking.
Hey,
yeah,
we
I
will
think
have Big Daddy tonight.
I mean, when I look at it, it says there's 53 watching, and it's this pop out chat that I'm on. So
yeah, I'm on the pop out chat as well. So it seems fine.
On 50, it says they're 57, 56 back and forth.
Listen, Anna Rita, that is my job to mess things up. Okay, just saying.
Derek in the house.
Did you guys aren't even hopping?
I can't post the link because I don't have the power.
I didn't distro hop. That's the problem, Derek.
All right, we're good. We're good. We're running.
Derek, there's something on your face there, dude.
I think it's called hair.
Rocco, I think at one point you had that.
Yeah,
I did.
Hair.
I did. Never again, but never.
It's getting ready for winter.
Well, that's a part of it. Is it's about to turn cold here in another 4 or 5 months. So.
I've been ready for winter.
It was 102 today.
Years.
So, can we get started with Endless OS now? now that Zeb already went. Zeb had a great take on Endless OS that nobody heard. Just saying.
Well, that's it. You can't stop me from talking, so I can do it again. It's not a problem.
Let him do it.
All right, I'll go to the bathroom.
Okay, so Endless OS. Yep, I did try it out. I got my 32 gig ISO out because I downloaded the 17 gig. Well, I got my 32 gig USB stick out because I tried the 17 gig ISO. That took forever to download. I don't know what was wrong with it. So I put it in the machine, booted it up, got to the section where it talked about installing. It was like, whoa, yank that out of the machine. There's no way you're going to wipe any of my SSDs. It is not a dual booting system. So normally I would go next, but I thought, no, let's give it a chance. So I rebooted into OpenSUSE and loaded up. Is it pronounced Qemu? Qemu? Anyway, it's a VirtualBox manager that doesn't work like the other one, VirtualBoxes from Oracle. So I powered it all up, got it all up and running, got it installed, looked very, very nice, went to update it, wouldn't connect to the repositories. So I left it a day, tried it again, wouldn't connect. Internet works fine. Trying to update it, forget it. It didn't want to know. So I then did a very polite next because I'd already seen some really good videos from Steve's very own and Eric. So I thought, well, leave it up to those guys to give it a try. But it did look good. I'll give it that.
Okay, so I didn't get to try it this week, except for throwing it in a VirtualBox for probably, actually it was for probably maybe 5 minutes. So I really am not going to say much about it. So Eric, what did you find with it? Oh, you did a stream on it.
I did 2 streams on it. Yeah, I found a whole bunch of stuff. So besides the streams, which you guys are welcome to watch, and I won't bore you with every single detail here, The dual booting, you know, Zeb's right on that. I also tried to force it sort of around. I tried to, you know, set different partitions. So basically I let it take over a whole disk and then went into Ubuntu, shrunk a partition, made a new partition for Ubuntu, installed Ubuntu. It still wasn't cooperating. So when they say it, they pretty much mean it. And you'd have to want to force it to work. And I don't know why you would, frankly. The first time I looked at it earlier this week, I really just didn't get it. And Zeb did me a favor by putting me straight and saying, look, you know, this is really for people without an internet connection or with, you know, without the availability of downloading updates or getting online. And so that's why all this content's here. And when I looked at it in those terms, that did make sense, but that only went so far. I had a lot of other very strange problems. The OS tree approach, so the same thing that like Silverblue is using, Fedora Silverblue. So it's protects the system because it's a read-only system files, so you can't mess it up, right? So you would think, okay, this would be a good system for someone that isn't, you know, someone who's going to be able to destroy it, like if you gave it to a child or if you gave it to someone that, you know, didn't know how to use a computer. But the difficulty there is if it doesn't run right on your hardware and you need to try to adjust anything with the system, it's just almost impossible. I know, I'm sure there are ways to do that. I saw there was a way you can actually flip a flag and have it be right to the file system, but they say you're, you know, here be dragons sort of territory. So the proof in that was, I thought for my daughter, she has a laptop, and I thought this, you know, this interface would be interesting because it's all just icons you click on. And for someone, she's 7, you know, it'd be perfect for her to just, hey, what's that? I'll click on that. The problem was it didn't run right on my laptop, and there was no way for me to fix it because if it has an NVIDIA card in it, they just make the decision for you that it's going to run NVIDIA. It probably would have run fine with Nouveau, but I'll never know because I couldn't change it. The other things that came to mind are, if so, to Zeb's point, if this is for someone without an internet connection, I disconnected the network and I thought, okay, well, let's see what this is like without a network connection. How much can I get done? And you are able to access a lot of things. There's the, you know, encyclopedia, there's a lot of programs installed, but it's really confusing because if it's not on the desktop, you don't know it's there. There's no menu anywhere. You can't see what's installed. The only way I found is if you go through the App Center and look at what's installed. And then if you look and you scroll down, there are buttons that say add to desktop, add to desktop, add to desktop, because that's their only solution. Now you can search if you start typing, but how do you know what to search for if you don't even know what's installed on the system? So it seems like a really silly oversight to me. And maybe someone could talk me out of thinking that's not, you know, that's a,
I think it's an awesome thing actually to have it to where but you're right that you can't find a program if you don't know that. So you could start searching for, you know, say Zoom or GIMP, but if you don't know that, if you're not looking for that, you're never going to find that.
And if it's not on the desktop, right? No one knows to go into the software center and look for installed like that. I mean, the other thing is if you're offline and you go to the software center, it looks like you've got all these choices. And if you go to any of them, it doesn't say, sorry, you can't download this because it's actually something you'd have to get with an internet connection. It just gives you an error that says, sorry, something went wrong, failed to get size, unable to load metadata from remote FlatHub. Nobody is going to know what that means.
What that means, yeah.
So I'm really not trying to be negative about this because honestly, if you were in a situation where you didn't have internet and this was on your computer, you could do a lot of things. So that in and of itself is an accomplishment that they've done that. The OS tree, while for me, as someone who want to adjust my system, is very limiting, for someone who doesn't know about computers and was just handed this, it would be very difficult for them to destroy the system unless they broke the hardware.
I think the concept of what they're trying to do is good because they was also talking about just taking 50 laptops into these remote villages and go, here you go, boys and girls, you can have computers to work with now. But you're right, they do need to work on that first line interface. maybe part of those giving them the computers is they'll go out and teach them how it works as well. But for the average Joe just downloading it and trying to use it, sorry, Joe, I don't mean to use your name. Just a word we use over here in the UK. So for the average person, yeah, it's not brilliant.
Well, I think it's a great goal to have, to be able to give people in remote locations this type of operating system computer that can work out of the box. But they do have to work on the medium part where you do want to allow somebody to install software. You do want to have you do want to have an internet connection. Not everybody's going to be limited to not having an internet.
Yeah. And the last thought I had was that someone pointed out earlier today that Asus and some other manufacturers actually have hardware where this is an option. And if you go, there's an Asus page that says Endless OS Introduction, and it's from about 1.5 years ago. But basically, they have hardware that will run this. So I thought that was interesting that they found some partnerships to maybe get some low-cost equipment out there.
Well, and don't they have like the little Nook-like computer?
They do, but they're not actually. You have to inquire to them about them, so it's not like they're on sale necessarily that I can see. Maybe it's a pre-order kind of thing and see what kind of interest they get. They are interesting looking little systems. They're very pretty, bamboo, wood, and white, and they're all very low power though. So not sure how that would run. I mean, my daughter's laptop is a Core 2 Duo. It's about 10 years old, and it tried. I mean, it was doing okay, but it's a heavy graphical UI. So I'm curious how that would work. But
if it's going to a place where there is no internet and it's a rural area, these things might be made to run on solar power as well.
It's a good point, Dan. And yeah, I thought about that as well, that they'd just be really low power 5-watt type systems. So anyway, I've spent a tremendous amount of time with Endless OS in the last 7 or 8 days. So I'm now done. So it is not endless for me. And I really do appreciate what they've done. I think they have a really great goal, and I think they're pushing in that direction. It's just nothing that I would use personally, but knowing how it operates and seeing, I'd like to check back and see the progress they make. And if anyone ever asks for, hey, I've got a little kid that I'm worried can do something wrong to the system, like it could be something I might offer as an option to someone.
All right, Aris, you're up, sir.
Yes, Endless OS is, I think, the first OS that I didn't actually install on Metal because I don't have a computer to devote just to it. There's no option to dual boot with another system. I think I like the idea of the system. It's like a kiosk, pretty much. Very simple. The install is just like, this is going to wipe your hard drive. Do you agree? Do you agree to the terms of service? Next, and then it does everything. It doesn't ask you anything at all besides that until it reinstalls everything and then restarts. Then you can set a username and like a password if you want. But there's very little. It's like the simplest install possible. And then the default interface, very simple. You get, within these 16 gigs plus, you get books that are included that are public domain. You get Wikipedia. You can search offline. A lot of that stuff that you can use, like they said, like in the third world. I think the idea is very good. What I have a trouble with is the end user agreement. I think I don't like end user agreement to begin with. I know that some distros do have it, like OpenSUSE, but this distro, when you agree to the end user agreement, it says that you are forced for arbitration for any disputes with this company, and you forfeit your right to any no class actions. I don't know why they won't go as far as that. I know that pretty much every distro says there's no express warranty, and they also say that, but they go even further and say that they're forcing you to arbitration for any dispute with this company, and that there's no class action possible. I don't know why they go that far. I think that's an overreach on their part, and other than that.
Sorry, Urs, I have a feeling that maybe because they do have some hardware partners, that could be something that they felt that they had to include.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Arbitration, I know they always sell arbitration in the companies. Like here in the US, we have a lot of like the credit cards, all of the internet providers, they always try to upsell you on arbitration, but it's always for their benefit because everything is held secret. And usually arbitration always tends to be in favor of the company versus the consumer. And for that reason, I can't support Endless. And I think that's about it.
Okay, fair enough. User, or should I change your name to Tony 2?
Yeah.
No, or should we make you the bearded one?
Whatever.
Yeah, no, we'll leave you as Tony 2 to save us getting confused with the other Tony who'll be along. So, did you try Endless?
I did. I actually tried to install it on a machine a few weeks ago, actually, on bare metal, and for some reason I did manage to get a partition editor that allowed me to try and do a dual boot, but it didn't work out very well at the time, and I ended up I couldn't boot into one of the OSs that was on the machine, so I ended up wiping it and reinstalling the original OS that had been on that machine. So when the challenge came up last week, I thought, right, I'll give it another go, but I'll put it in VM. So I put it in VirtualBox. But I wasn't going to go the 16 gig route. I just used the 2.1 one, downloaded that and stuck it in virtual machine. One of the things I didn't like about it, I changed over the internet browser to Firefox and then uninstalled Chrome. And then the next time I booted it up, it reinstalled Chrome, and that was without me even asking. Just suddenly said Chrome is now ready to use.
Maybe that was one of those immutable things that it does where you can't actually break what they give you.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but yeah, I thought that was a bit strange that you can't choose to use whatever browser you want to. But I was listening to Jason Evangelo's interview with one of the devs the other day, and I can see the use case scenario for it, but it's not really for me. It's not the kind of distro I'm really into.
I think you might be getting confused with Elementary, not Endless.
No, I thought he did an interview with the Endless dev the other.
On the latest episode of episode 7, it was Daniel Foray. I don't know if that's the episode.
Oh right, I might have been getting it mixed up then. Yeah.
Mm.
And unless it was an older one that I was listening to.
Possibly, I'll have a look through because I'll be interested to hear if he did get a chat with him and what they said about it.
Just as a announcement, OBS window. So it is still sending out the stream. The video is frozen for everybody. So you could just like act like you're listening to the Biddle audio stream that I put out every week.
Yeah.
And as Vince said, enjoy the awesomeness.
What's interesting though is the chat does seem to be scrolling every now and again.
Yeah, the chat's going.
Zoom is not Zoom. I'm sorry.
The audio. Oh, sorry, Rocco.
OBS is stuttering. So OBS will let the video through for a second or two, and then let it through for a second or two. I don't know what's going on. My computer's.
You need to get a new computer, Rocco. How about buying one?
Too soon, Zeb. Too
you
soon.
can take mine.
Too soon.
Are you still running GNOME, Rocco?
I am running Pop OS at the moment, but this is the first time I'm having these issues.
Well, Rocco, you could always get another video card.
Wow, Matt. Wow.
I would just distro
Matt. You just went right for the jugular.
Yeah, Pop OS might have just popped.
Isn't
Seven Power having a sale?
Anyway, let's get back to Endless. Otherwise, these jokes for Rocco are going to be endless.
I'm going to mute everybody.
No,
Rocco, what about Streamlabs OBS?
Anyway,
Tony
continue on.
Anything else you noticed?
Well, I was just going to say Eric actually covered a hell of a lot of what I was going to say anyway. But basically for me, it's just not the kind of distro that I'd be interested in, but I can see a use case scenario in certain areas for it. So yeah, that's about it really.
Yep. I think that might be a lot of the chat today, but let's find out. Chris, did you get a chance to have a look at Endless this week?
Yeah, I ended it real quick though, because I was lamenting on I believe it was probably it was Discord. Yeah, I think I was lamenting on Discord and getting it installed. I couldn't get the partitions like I wanted because well it didn't allow me to do that. And I think it was Kevin who said, think like a new user, like someone who has, and I was like, yeah, okay. So I tried to take that view all the way through until I couldn't update. I couldn't install the programs that I normally use in the workflow. I don't even think I could have put Regulus on there. I know Regulus is for Ubuntu, but I mean, or any other, i3 or any of the other tiling managers, I don't think it would have gone on there. I tried going through the Software Center and downloaded a couple of games, wouldn't work. Wouldn't tell me why it wouldn't work. I have a feeling it's probably because I wasn't using the Open GL or GTK, and so my laptop just said, "You want me to do what?" Yeah. So it was. I think after the second day, I ripped it out and put Fedora 30 on it for the rest of the week. So I could not work in it, even with the mindset of someone who hasn't used a computer at all. I can't get into that mindset only because one of the reasons why I got into Linux was because I wanted to maintain control over the machine. I wanted to be able to do what I felt was necessary, or break something and fix it, or something like that. I just this just reminded me too much of a Mac and the way Windows is going lately. So editorial aside, I couldn't work in it. So
right.
All right. Tony, sir, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Rocco. And how is you and everybody tonight?
Well, we're having issues, but we're making it, Tony.
It's working now.
It is working now.
It is.
I have no idea what the deal is. The only thing I can think of is this was a shared folder on my other that has some effect on OBS for whatever reason. I have no idea why, but all is good now, Tony. Did you try Endless OS?
No.
Hey, that's a perfectly good answer. Is there a reason why you chose not to?
No, it's not that I didn't choose to try it. It's on the laptop because it came on the laptop originally and it was wiped, and it works on this because it's obviously designed to. I've put it back on, but I haven't had enough time to look at it. I've been a bit busy this week, so I'll try and get a better look at it and perhaps have a go next week, if that's okay.
That's perfectly fine. I can relate to that.
I'm sorry. I have to object, Tony. There's nothing else you were doing.
I know. I don't know what to say. I'll go to the corner of the room.
You know what? I got to hear your voice, so I'm happy.
Right.
There you go.
Oh, thank you. You're too kind.
All right, Dan, how are you,
yes, sir? I'm doing well, and so I feel really good. I mean, this isn't me hosting this week. Sorry. Last time this happened, I was the host. So yeah. Sorry about that.
Thanks, Dan.
Anyway, I share your pain. No, I lived vicariously a little bit through Eric this week. I watched his stream, so I do plan to try it. So I'll give you a go next week. How's that sound?
Okay, dig it. Barbara.
Okay, I did finally get a chance to download it today. I downloaded the 17 gig, and I did put it on a 64 gig USB. So I'm ready to install it on on one test machine that I have, just to see how it goes. One of the things that I did notice, and I found as a user who knows what she's doing most of the time, I found that just downloading it was confusing. I don't know if anybody else noticed that. You've got a little drop down box, and you click the one it says download from Linux or Mac, and then you get your choices.
I ran
and then
into
you have
that.
to click the torrent. What happens if a person doesn't even know what that is? Because that's the type of person it's aimed for. So it expects you to download the torrent. And it took me a couple of times to figure out, oh, now I get it. I selected here from the drop-down box, and then I clicked the torrent. Now, what happens if I don't get that and I don't even know what that is? You know what I mean? That to me, it was a little confusing. I can understand why they're using a torrent as opposed to having the full ISO sitting somewhere because of just the amount of data going back and forth, downloading it. But that to me was problematic already. It is because I know too much and I don't just click things.
And what about people who have read all over the news that torrents are bad and they don't realize that they're good for this sort of thing? So therefore, I'm not downloading this. I'm not going to torrent. That's naughty.
I mean, I understand. And the fact that there were like about 14 people was being seeded from. So that was really pretty cool. And even with that, it's still, I downloaded, as I said, the 17 gig version because I'm going to put the whole thing on. And just so you guys know, and I did post this in the discourse on it. It was in Choose Linux, episode 7, and they had said the thing about dual booting. You can't dual boot no matter what. And none of them could get it to dual boot. So, and also it didn't always work well in a VM. So if you're trying to load it into a VM, that was the other problem. So it's got to go in bare metal. And I think I would, if anybody wants to, try the distro, I would suggest they listen to that episode 7 of Choose Linux. I found it, I was very, very, informative. But that doesn't help the other part that was so confusing. I've got it sitting here on my monitor. About the download.
Right.
And they don't really say, except when you go in the FAQ, and then it says, oh, you can't dual boot with Mac and Endless, or you can't dual boot with Windows and Endless. But they don't assume anybody who's using Linux would be dual, installing it, I think. But they should have that up in the front, right there, before you download anything. So that was just my thing.
So Barb, you're saying with dual booting, you can't run it on 2 separate drives?
See, that according to them, you can't dual boot, I guess, on the same drive.
Okay, well, same drive makes sense, but separate drives, I wouldn't see why couldn't you? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, they don't really talk about having separate drives. I'm going to be putting it on an old ThinkPad T420, which has 2 drives. One's for data and one's for the operating system. And I'm going to see if it can handle that, which I'm beginning to think it probably can't.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, Joe, you'll find that OS Prober is missing, so it won't look for any other OS because it expects to be the only one on the disk.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you boot up from your other disk, you won't see, or you probably would see Endless, but whether or not it'd boot, it'd be another matter.
Yeah. So, and so those are the things that I found so far. I haven't tried it yet, but I do plan to try it just out of curiosity and try to come at it as as somebody who's never used Linux and doesn't have, I do happen to have a decent internet connection, but I can just, turn the network off, turn my Wi-Fi off and see how it goes. And I was just really curious about that. So I like the idea. I really think that because even where I live if you go a half mile up the road or down the road, doesn't matter, that way behind me, you go a half mile south, they don't have, if they want internet, they have to have DSL. They don't have broadband.
Right.
It stops at the end of the subdivision, which is past my house.
All right. Well, look forward to listening to that next week and what you think about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thomas, did you manage to wipe out your Droga OS and put Endless on?
I did not try Draugr OS not Draugr OS.
Try that.
Advertisement.
I did not try Endless OS this week.
It's on the brain.
For 2 reasons. Yeah. I didn't try it for 2 reasons. The first one was because I don't have a torrenter on my machine, and I don't really want to install one because even though I know there are pros and cons to it, I just don't really feel like installing a torrenter. And second, I've been busy with another operating system this week, not Draugr OS. I've been running an experiment for the past week or so. I like to call Ubuntu Arch style. And basically the premise behind it is I'm trying to see, I'm building my own Ubuntu ISO that you have to install the way you install Arch. And I'm going to compare Arch versus this sort of Arch-like Ubuntu and see if there really are any benefits to actually running Arch, and if all these claims about why Arch is better are actually true. And if there are, great. If they're not, there might be something else.
Thomas, is that a black T-shirt with a Draugr OS sticker on it, or is that a Draugr OS T-shirt?
This is an iron-on, first off, but yes, it is.
Thomas, I just want to say that I wish you good luck on learning a live build.
It's actually pretty easy. I've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Joshua, you do know that he is the lead dev of Droga OS, so he knows how to do that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
he is Draugr OS.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm stuck with that live build. It's a nightmare.
Which
You just stop. Not you.
When I get done with this experiment, I will put my paper, I guess you could say, somewhere.
Discourse.
The blog.
I might put it on there. I might put it on the blog. I might put it in both places. I might just put it on the blog and link to it in the discourse. I will put it somewhere.
Let me know,
there
Thomas.
will be instructions on how to build it up from scratch, on like how you build that Ubuntu ISO yourself and how like you have to actually install this and the differences in the way you would do this from Arch, because like Arch, you download the ISO yourself, but you don't have to build it. Whereas this, you have to build the ISO yourself. So you get a little bit more of an understanding about what goes into developing an operating system. So
Thomas, just so you know, if you wanted to write something up on Discourse, I would be happy to promote it to a blog post. And that goes for anyone, actually, if you had an interesting idea and wanted to. Nate's done that a couple times, and just saying.
Excellent. Big Pod, did you try Endless?
No, I didn't. And
why?
Mainly because I was playing with some other system and because it is the no dual boot system. So basically I said next, and also next week I'm not appearing, so.
Shock horror. Anybody think you're going to a family wedding and having fun and dancing? It's just not on.
Yeah. So for me, it's next.
Okay.
Colin, sir.
Okay. Yes, I was a little bit concerned about the install process, which only allows it to go on one disk. So that was, don't know why they've done that and don't give you the option of installing to anything else. That was a bit odd, but that's obviously the way they want it to work. Also, there's a calendar. I don't know if anyone's seen, there's a little big red arrow up the top. You just drop that down and it has the date and the quote of the day and the word of the day. In this case, it's abscission. Noun, the act of cutting off, which is a bit bizarre. That quote the word of the day came up today, considering what's been happening with the stream this morning. But I just thought I'd mention it.
Colin, you really didn't have to go there. I mean, we all know what's happening with the stream.
But anyway, I've installed it on 2 laptops. I took one to work, decided to have a look around on it without having any internet whatsoever. Showing the guys at work a little bit about it during lunch and all that. There is a lot of stuff on here, and you've got the different menus. Curiosity is one of them. You've got animals, dinosaurs, health, math, myths and legends, short films, science snacks. So much information there. I even did a search in the encyclopedia for Linux. Has a lot of information for Linux as well. So that was pretty cool. So it's got a lot of stuff offline that kids I could see as an advantage where they live in isolated areas where they could have everything at their fingertips without having internet to help them learn. And it's got so much learning stuff in here, which is brilliant. If you go onto the videos, it's got some nice, if you just open videos, it's got some nice videos on there as well, little tutorials. It's got a whole lot of tutorials for Blender, how to use Blender. I don't know why Blender's on there, but that's one that they've chosen. And it's got the LibreOffice.
But Colin, I think that's awesome for just for looking at it through the Linux adoption idea, that you're giving kids this computer and they're able to use it without an internet connection, do some awesome things on it, and it's Linux, and you're introducing them to that. And I think that's the awesome part of this.
I think it's great. I think it's great. The only thing that I'm not sure about is how they came up with why they would use the GNOME desktop. In that sense, you'd have to be thinking that if they're giving it to underprivileged people, they may not have super strong computers. So I would have thought that the GNOME desktop would be something that's a little bit overpowered for a lot of situations like that. I may be wrong. I'm not sure, but I would have thought something a little bit.
You may have a point, Colin, about GNOME, but you also got to think about the fact that GNOME is also the default on other distributions, like the main ones, like Ubuntu, Fedora. Sure. So it's like, I guess maybe, I don't know if they wanted to go with what everybody else had gone with. As far as default, I can't answer that. I'm just speculating. But
and again, if you look back at their original ethos, that the idea was just to walk into these places and hand out 25 laptops. They've already done the will it work on this laptop type scenario. So I don't think they were too worried about. And again, that's the reason why it's just one OS, because if it goes wrong and it mucks up your dual boot and you can't get back into it, you've got no internet connection to download anything to fix it. So it was really a case of, this is a laptop, it works, no internet, just enjoy it, don't mess with it.
Yep.
And I also... You go on.
Yeah. I also did the updates as well. They seem to work all right. So everything seemed to have updated fine for me. Somebody else mentioned they had problem with updates, but my updates seem to have worked no problem. So, and I can see the advantage. I did download the 2 gig as well to see whether the installation was different, but it's actually the same. So I thought they may have had something else on the 2 gig that was different to the 16 gig, but it wasn't the case anyway. It was still the same, take over the whole disk scenario. But it did say that if you have Windows installed, it will install. There is an option there if Windows is installed to install side by side.
What, on the 2 gig version?
On both of them, I believe. Yeah. Only if Windows is present on the computer, I believe. That's how I interpret it.
That might explain why I was able to do a dual boot on Metal a while back, because there was Windows as well as another Linux OS on the machine that I was using. But it was the Linux it didn't recognize after the install. Windows was still available.
It will dual boot with Windows. It will pick up that it's got it there, and then it will ask you to do something different. I did find out. I think I was reading the website, and I discovered that. But just getting back to the OS, I can see 16 gig sounds like a lot, but if you got one person distributing that to people and just installing laptop after laptop, then you're using the one ISO, that probably would come in pretty handy. It's only one download, so it sounds like a lot to start with, but I can see it's got some huge advantages. So yeah, it's not a bad distro, I must say. But yeah, the discoverability as far as what's installed, the only way you really know is to go to the software and go to the installed part of it, and then you know what's there. So, and there's plenty of other things that people could download. It's got games on it as well. It's got Learn to Code, which is another thing. It's got all the Twitter and all that stuff on there as well. It's got cooking. It's got all these things on how to cook and all that stuff as well. So it's just got heaps of stuff on there to learn. So very impressive, I must say. Whether I'd run it on a full-time basis, I doubt it very much, but I can see it being a huge advantage for those people without internet. So I think Endless is on a good path there. That's my experience.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. Obviously, we ran a little late on the video problem, so we only got about 10 or 12 minutes left on the distro. So if there's anybody that wants to go on Endless and not going to make it next week, just let us know. Cubicle Nate, sir. How are you? Are you there?
He did say he would have to step away from the stream a little bit.
He said in the Zoom chat that he's having audio problems, I think.
Yeah. But Dave raised his hand.
Yeah, I can go, but I don't have to.
I'm traveling starting next Saturday, and I'm not sure I'm going to be in Baltimore in time to make it.
So go ahead, Dave.
I actually got it installed. I liked the installer. Made it very simple, easy to do. 2 steps and it goes. For some reason on my Toshiba laptop, it kept trying the first 6 times I booted it. It kept trying to boot from network before it would drop into Endless. But the last time I rebooted it was fine. For what Colin was talking about, the GNOME is, I have it up and running right now, and it's only using 1.1 gigs of RAM. So it's not as bloated as a lot of GNOME installs that I've used. With Tony 2, I totally agree, because when it reinstalled Chrome, I don't like Chrome. I use Firefox. So the first thing I did was yank Chrome off and put Firefox on. I reboot and it brings Chrome back. And I'm like, no, I don't want Chrome. I don't want Google having that much of an access to my system. For Barbara, my laptop has 2 disks. I installed it on the system disk, and I haven't tried symlinking it in yet, but it accessed my data disk no problem.
Oh, good. That's
So
good to know.
should be fine
Thank you.
with that. For Colin, my word of the day was not the same as yours. Mine is cataplasm, which is some kind of moist, moist bandage to use on a wound. I did like in the Discovery program, the app program, that it had listing under each the source of the app, so I knew which ones were Flatpaks and which one were coming from repositories. Updates for me worked fine if I used the GUI updater, but me being me, the first thing I did was track down the terminal and throw that shortcut onto the desktop. And going into the terminal and trying to update is where I ran into problems getting access to the repositories. Didn't try and add any third-party repositories, but when I went through the GUI, it updated fine. It was a good, solid distro. I would never use it because it's not a rolling distro, and I don't like GNOME. But what I saw of it, they have a lot of backgrounds, very nice backgrounds, by the way. So that was another plus in its favor. There are a lot of things I liked about it, and I think it's very good. I would never recommend it for somebody coming from Windows. It's totally alien to that way of thinking. But if they're new computer users, I don't see why it would be an issue having kind of the difference. It's kind of phone-like almost, with all the apps right on the top screen and how you access it. So considering a lot more people have cell phones than computers nowadays, creating an interface that is more like a phone UI is probably a good thing and an easier transition for them. So I think they're doing a great job, and I like it. It's just not for me.
Yeah. Now you mention it, it was a bit Chromebook-like as well. The way that you just had the icons on your desktop. All right, well, I think we've got time for one more. And I noticed, Steve, that you wanted to jump in there. So away you go, my friend.
Yeah, thanks. I'm not sure if I'll be here next week, so I'd like to go. I did have the chance to put it into GNOME boxes. First time I ever used that. Worked out real well. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. I don't think, first of all, that Endless was ever meant for anyone who joins Biddle. I think it's really meant for a completely different use case. I also don't think it's ever meant to be installed by a new user either. I really think that from the video that Eric linked to, their philosophy is trying to get these low power computers into third world countries and other places where computer access has been very limited or not available at all, and internet access is not available, and have them already flashed with the OS on there, so that even if those same computers sit in the factory for 4 years before they're delivered, the OS is still functional and it's still updatable because of the OS tree model that they use. So I really think that the way that they're going about is for a very, very specific use case, which is one of the reasons I love this, because here's an example of, we don't just have another distro for distro's sake. We have a group of people who've taken open source, and they're really trying to address and meet a need that I believe that is out there. And I'm a little concerned about how all OSs are becoming more online first, and offline is almost an afterthought. I remember a couple of times when I was using my computer and then suddenly I lost network and internet access, and I had to sit there for a while to figure out, can I actually still do any work? Because I've got all my stuff in Google Docs and I didn't have them downloaded offline ahead of time, and can I actually get work done? I don't think that's a healthy situation to be in, even in the United States where we have access to high-speed internet, but that's not even universal. I know just a few miles outside of where I live, outside of the town where I live, people are very limited even with cell phone access and may not have high-speed access at all available to them. So I'm really concerned that all of our OSs are going to this online first mentality. And I believe that in open source, we have an opportunity to actually produce something that can be a wonderful tool, a technology tool that people can use even if they don't have access to the internet or they have horrible access to the internet. And Endless is trying to meet that. And I really admire them for thinking outside of the box and trying to meet a real need that is part of the digital divide that's out there in the world today. One thing that I wanted to comment too, I thought Eric made some really neat points about maybe some things that they could improve. Dave, I think he made a couple of neat points too about areas where they could improve as well. One of the things that none of you mentioned is the content management system that they have for their content that they've kind of put together and packaged in that 17 gig package. They actually use a very specialized like book browser for some of their content and their articles that they have curated and put together. And I was struggling to find anything like that in the repos. I almost wish that they would release it, but I think in the video that Eric referenced, they made a comment that, well, if you had it on another distro and you weren't getting our updates through Endless, it would probably stop working or the information wouldn't be kept current if you didn't have our back end supporting it. So that's kind of a bummer, but I really thought their content management system that they had for offline use was just beautiful. And the articles with the pictures and multimedia and everything else, what a beautiful example of what you could do offline and provide free content. And the only area I wish they would expand upon, and this is maybe because of my son's background, that many of you know my son loves to program. They had some how to code, but I thought it was kind of curious that here you kind of have an offline first OS, and the how to code was how to code web pages, which I know is maybe one of the easiest introductions to coding. But I think it would be neat if they would try to curate some of the teaching materials that are out there that are available for Creative Commons licensing, and could be like Python projects, for example, that could be done right on the computer, so that kids could learn to first program maybe little terminal programs that run in the terminal, and then kind of advance to a graphical program that they write and run right there on the computer that they're using as an introduction to programming. I think that would be neat, or even if you could find some materials for C++ or some of the other languages. So
that might add another gig or two.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You got to pick and choose, I'm sure. But that would be my only encouragement as far as a curated material. They got some neat stuff. But for the programming end of things, if you could maybe have more that would work offline first in your programming, as far as being able to produce little programs that could work offline without a connection to the internet, I think that'd be a neat thing.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice, Steve. I know we're getting close here, but Derek, I know that your work schedule is not the best. Is there anything you want to? Did you try Endless OS?
No, I didn't try Endless this week.
Okay, dig it. Anybody else, real quick, want to get in before we cut that off? Dan?
I thought Matt wanted to. I saw his hand go up a couple times
Matt,
before.
do it.
You're muted, Matt.
I know.
We like
that. I know. You guys like me muted anyway.
This is true.
Yeah. But at least it's not Michael or Ryan. Short version, I am currently actually running Endless OS.
On what,
yeah. Normal piece of hardware, Rocco.
No, it's not normal. Nothing you have is normal, dude.
It's not the Surface tablet, is it?
No, I got rid of the Surface tablet. No, actually, it's running on a Lenovo IdeaPad Y470. It's a Intel Core i7, 8 gigs, 120 gig SSD, and AMD GPU. Nothing special, Rocco, believe it or not. As far as Endless overall, this is actually Heart Attack, a version of GNOME I don't dislike.
What?
Wow.
Why? Why is it that you don't like this? Or why is it that you don't dislike this?
There are certain implementations of I use everything under the sun as far as distros. I prefer Budgie. I prefer everything but GNOME itself. The way they have implemented this is, as somebody else mentioned, is very phone-like, very, very tablet-y kind of OS. Discoverability of default programs, yes, there's a problem. The uninstalling, it's annoying. You can't do it. It's Android on Linux. What do you want me to say? As far as that, yes, you can't uninstall Google Chrome, but you can remove it. You can change the default application. You just type in default applications, and oh, hey, look, you can change the default application to Firefox. This very much fits the one laptop per child mantra. This is what this is for.
That's actually what Terry Love said in chat.
Yeah, it is very much in that vein. The offline content that is there, you have music, you have documentaries, you have tutorials for Blender. This is a system that if you blow up, the core is not blown up. It's just the applications are blown up. So to me, that is perfectly fine. Now, somebody mentioned that these are systems that you just ship and here you go. That is precisely why I think something like this is good, because for those type of countries, you don't need, these are installed once and it doesn't matter. So those places that only have a 500 megabyte, yes guys, megabyte a month limit for their internet, they're not downloading gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes of packages from FlatHub and Flatpaks and all the other stuff. So to me, I understand some of the gripes, the lack of like, getting rid of Chrome and a few other things. But as far as a niche distro that is targeting a specific need, what more could we want? Now there room for improvement. Yes, the default by not having like a menu app or essentially for like all the stuff listed, big drawback. You could can you at least just like group all the applications as the nice lovely folders? It is GNOME. I mean, come on. Yeah. So, but overall, for me, I can install everything I would need. I got WPS Office. I got Kdenlive. I got Shotcut. I got Flowblade. You can install Steam.
I couldn't get GNOME Tweaks installed.
It's because it's customized, Rocco.
Just saying.
But it's because from FlatHub, Rocco. But overall, if this is what Silverblue is supposed to be, I can get behind something like this. I just can't get behind Silverblue because it's Fedora.
Right.
So, are you saying, Matt, that you've become a GNOME fanboy now? Is that?
Tell that to the 2 workstations that I have are still running Plasma.
Okay.
Wow. All right. I think we're over time. We will hopefully get to everybody next week who hasn't gone this week. Apologies for who didn't get in. Part of that was my fault for messing up the stream in the first place and our stay up. But that is our take, our initial thoughts on our 2-week distro challenge for Endless OS. And we will continue this week checking it out. I will try to make a better effort this week than this past week to give it a good run through and see what I can come up with. But I think that from what I'm hearing, that this is a perfect use case for a specific group. And it's not meant for distro hoppers. It's not meant for advanced Linux users. It's just meant for a specific use case, which I think is a perfect use case for Linux.
Mm-hmm.
All right. On to our next hour of conversations. I do want to touch on a little, I don't know, comments, I guess. I have heard people in the community talk about the fact that Biddle is kind of not the best scenario where you have a lot of people talking and people can't hear everybody what's going on. But I think I'll go back to what Biddle is about to explain that. Biddle is about each one of you guys being able to come on here and people in chat to come on here and give your opinion. It doesn't matter your status in Linux. It doesn't matter your status in the community. You could be a developer or you could be an everyday user who's never touched a piece of code. But your opinion matters regardless of your status. And I think that's the spirit of Biddle. And I could moderate this to the extent of trying to get rid of people who interrupt and do all this stuff, but that's not the point. The point is we are a community. We are a community that should be working together and basically just having fun. That's what we're here to do. We're here to talk about one of our favorite subjects. This is not, if this is what you're looking for as a structured podcast type show, I appreciate that. I mean, I've been involved in them before, but this is not what Biddle is. Biddle is just a community get-together where we all talk. I do release the audio of it if you want to listen to it as a podcast form. But again, I have to go back to what Biddle is about, and that is each and every one of you. So I just figured I had to get that out there because there have been some questions in the last couple of weeks about it. So
Kevin in chat said that this is his lug, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way to think of it, where it's as much about us getting together and talking to each other and having something to cover, a topic, a distro, whatever, and the folks in chat. And I know from myself being here for a few months now, I mean, that was what drew me to this in the first place, is that it was open, it was accessible. I didn't have to come in here and pretend that I was some kind of wizard and And so I think, Rocco, you may hear that kind of criticism, and some people may have that kind of feedback, but I think the reality is that we're all here because of exactly what you just said.
I think the community too needs to realize that this kind of show, like, you can't mix everybody's audio. You know, you don't have separate audio inputs for every person. So there's going to be volume levels that don't match. It's never going to be the kind of production quality some people want. So it's just impossible.
Right. And it's never meant for that either. Like, I mean, it's not meant for that. It's just meant for us to get together and talk. So if that makes you not want to watch, then that's okay too. But for those that do, it's here.
Which is why one of my favorite podcasts is actually the Linux Lads, which is a group like this in Dublin that they just get together and talk. And that's what makes that special for them, and for me listening to them is what makes this place special for me to participate in.
I'd just like to say that I think last week brought up some issues, I think, because Adam's story was such an interesting story. And I think because people were having a say in between that, people just wanted to hear the story. And I think that may have just brought up a bit of frustration from people because they just wanted to hear Adam finish his story. That's the take I get, but I don't think it's ever been a real issue or huge issue with everyone interrupting here and there. But last week might have just highlighted that a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you have such a great story that Adam had told, you're going to have people want to talk about it. You're going to have people want to say and put their comment in. So yes, in a story situation like last week, you're going to have the interruptions. I would ask, like everybody, to just be respectful to the person who's talking. But the other side of that coin is, as Derek had pointed out with the different audios, you also have different internet connections. So people are going on a delay. Like certain people have a couple seconds delay, so they may not hear you talking right away. So that's not always the issue. I'm just saying these are all factors that go into it, and hey, it's just the way it is.
I want to say one more thing though. So to the point about Adam bringing up that story, I saw that referenced in no less than 5 or 6 times last week on different people's videos, on different places, and so you can criticize that maybe the quality isn't what you'd expect from like a professionally produced podcast, but I think what you get here is a lot of different opinions, input, insight. People are bringing their experiences from all over, different levels of using the system, from hobbyists all the way up to professionals who make a living using it. And so when we get those kind of insights, those are the gems, right? I mean, it being here and being together is the point of it, but you sometimes get these pieces of information that really live outside of this and really take on a life of their own. And so in terms of merit, no one can argue that there isn't merit to this format. Is it always perfect? No, of course not.
Yeah, 100% agree. And Thomas, aren't you getting excited? Your users in the chat.
Yes, I'm aware. I see them there occasionally. I'm very happy. It's always good to be able to see people who have actually used it. I'm very happy about that.
There's nobody that uses Drog.rs, is there? Who are we talking about? I'm just teasing you. I'm just teasing you.
Nothing about low latency, please.
Right.
I think Tony had something to say.
Bring that up.
Go ahead, Tony.
I just wanted to say, where else can we geek out on a Saturday night, Sunday morning for me and Zeb, and also have something like the Marmite Vegemite Challenge? I don't think anywhere.
I know you watched that episode. We were the original Marmite Challenge, let me tell you.
Yeah.
All right.
Fermented yeast.
Anybody have anything they want to bring up before we move on?
Probably the same old. Oh, go on in, Dan. You jump in, mate.
I just wanted to mention today I got a huge update package for Debian. It's unusual to get 123 updates, And what was included in the updates was not only the standard software, but there was firmware for Broadcom drivers, there was Realtek drivers, there was firmware for this, there was a new kernel. There's a whole bunch of new stuff to the point where I actually had to rebuild the header for VirtualBox to make it to work. So I didn't know if any of you people experienced the same thing.
They're called security updates. I'm pretty sure it's a security update for something that big.
Are you just on Buster Stable, are you, Dan?
Yeah, I'm on Buster Stable, and I never get packages in that amount, and I almost never get new drivers and firmware and stuff,
But
especially
Buster,
from Broadcom.
no, Buster got an update, so 10.1 came out.
Yeah, they do point releases, kind of like
Right.
the Ubuntu LTS point releases. They'll do a few.
Yep, there'll be much. There was 10 point releases for stretch.
Right.
So.
Okay.
So everything go
This
okay
is
with
where-
the update though, Dan?
Yeah, they went perfect. But I had to bring it up because I get my knowledge from you guys. I watch all your videos as YouTube content creators, even though I'm not on your stream when it's live. I eventually get to see them.
All right. Anything else? Anybody got any topics they want to bring up?
Well, I wanted to bring up one, if I may, just very quickly, but it may escalate or you may go, oh, really boring. Yet another Facebook leak of 419 million people's phone numbers.
This is why you shouldn't be on Facebook.
Yeah, we've
And
already
yet
discussed
they still sign up by the hundreds of thousands. When are these people going to learn?
You know, Zeb, they punish the company which already has this in their budget when they get punished, and then they write the fine off in their taxes. They need to go after the board members and the officers of the business.
Well, it makes me wonder. I mean, Facebook has had so many security scares. I think they should sack the whole of the HR department and get somebody who knows an IT person when they see one, because anybody in that IT department should be ashamed of themselves running systems like that.
I think I know
They
why
should.
they were leaked, though. I think they're in the business of trying to get you more friends, so they're just trying to spread your number out there so you can get more friends. They're just trying to help people out. I don't understand.
You're saying it's a feature, not a bug.
It's a feature.
Yeah.
Oh, Eric. Sorry, Adam. You run a fairly large network connection, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Would you still be in your job if half your college's secrets suddenly got leaked out to everybody?
Like if any of the student data got out,
Yeah.
I think we'd all be purged. Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't the Facebook people get, or is that the problem, that they get purged and they bring a new lot in, and before they can learn it, another mistake happens from the last lot?
Zeb, you know what they do is they use contractors, which are disposable, and the contractors get really careless.
Yeah, but to be honest with you, I don't think
Just get rid of Mark Zuckerberg.
I don't think that the structure of Facebook, the people in charge care too much about the whole security thing. So it's a moot point to worry about the text behind the scenes, because if the ownership doesn't care, you're not going to get that out of the text.
Back around, you got to find the people that are in charge rather than the company.
Can we just get to the point where we understand that Facebook isn't going to change? The government's not going to do anything about it. And if we want to complain about it, don't use it.
Yeah.
Facebook was not built to be private.
Song and dance.
Okay, let me make a Facebook Biddle page.
Big Pod, go ahead.
First of all, it's a social network, so all people should really know that they won't be private. Second, I believe this was actually an effect of the tool that was it was active a couple of months ago, where you could search by number, and someone, I believe actually it wasn't even from the company itself, from Facebook itself, used the tool and reverse searched all the phone numbers and just dumped the phone numbers out into a file, and they got released now. I don't know if it was someone outside or if it was someone in company. I just know that we probably used this tool where you could search via phone number. So let's say you could find a friend via phone number, and somebody used the same tool to get the phone numbers out and basically using a scraping technology to get them in file, and it just got released.
Well,
anyone get a pay increase for that?
Joe, you got something for this?
No, actually, I was just you were talking about. So I was just going to throw EB's prediction for you. You're going to be doing Biddle from Siberia or someplace anyway. So,
well, I'd like to bring up a conversation to have you guys talk about, and that is in the Linux Spotlight series. I always bring up a question. It's one of the questions that was brought up from the community questions that, bad at Linux being bad at marketing. And there has been a few people that have basically said that we're not in it to market Linux. Okay. And maybe it's the wrong choice of words, I guess. And maybe we should be advocating for Linux rather than trying to market it. Some people have made the statement that marketing is just another form of lying, and that, focusing on the positives. I was reading one comment said focus on the positives means cover up things. And I think that's totally wrong in its observation of what I mean, and I'm hoping what you guys mean when we say Linux is bad at marketing. When I say marketing, I don't mean sell you a product. I mean basically advocate for it. So I think maybe it's a little bit of semantics. When I say focus on the positives, I don't mean cover up the negatives. I always tell you guys when we look at a distro, let's be honest. Let's say if there's problems. And I'm hoping that every one of you can attest to that yes, let's talk about the negatives, but let's do it in a positive way, in a constructive way, so that we respect the idea of the developers and what they're working on, and yet still give them the constructive feedback that they need. So
to that point, I just want to add to that, maybe a better word instead of marketing is promoting. Like you said, advocate, promoting, because the only thing I could say about that, I said before with this, is there's a side to me now that's, as much as I want to get as many people on Linux as possible, there's a side to me that's a little reluctant, because again, we said it over and over again, I don't want the target to keep going on the back of Linux either, because there is, even though it's not perfect, there's still a comfort level to it the way it is right now. I don't want it to switch places with Microsoft and all of a sudden it's the one where all the hackers want to be going after and all that stuff. So that, to me, I would never necessarily personally want to see it get maybe that big, although I do want to see it grow in the marketplace, if you want to, we call it marketplace, but grow in, its usership.
To me, Joe, the first thing when I bring up Linux to people, a majority of them think it's hobbyware, or it's some kind of hobby or something. They don't think it's for real. And for that reason, I have all the bloat in my Linux distro to show people you can do this. Here's OBS. I don't know how to really use it good, but you do this with it. There's GIMP. There's this, there's that. I show them that this is for real and it's not, something to take for granted. Now, take a look at your Windows. What has it turned into?
Yeah, go on, Thomas.
So
it's changing a frame of mind.
Thomas, can you get closer to your mic a little bit? You're a little low.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
I will say, as a distro maintainer myself, this sort of stuff doesn't do much. I have never had anybody ask me what this means, this symbol on my shirt. That being said, I have tried doing ad marketing campaigns, and it helped a little bit, but not much. I will probably not do an ad marketing campaign again. And the reason for that is because if I do one, I want to do it through someone whose ad system is open sourced and privacy respecting. And that just straight up doesn't exist, because basically your major ad systems that you can go through are Facebook and Google. And everybody knows how bad those choices are. The only one that I can think of as far as ad systems that are privacy respecting and open sourced is maybe DuckDuckGo, because I know they do ads and I know they're privacy respecting, but I don't know if they're open sourced or not. And I do need to do do the research on that. But because I have next to no budget, I can't. Now, somebody like Canonical, they could definitely do it, but they just don't. Probably because they also are on a tight budget, because since you're distributing open source software and you're not asking to get paid for it, so you're not charging for it, you have next to no source of income. And that's why it is imperative that you support the projects that you love and you enjoy and you want to see more of. If you like the Telegram client, donate to Telegram. If you like OBS, donate to OBS. If you like XFCE, donate to XFCE. Any project, if you like it and you have money to spare, donate to it. If you can't donate money, donate your time as like a translator or a coder or a documenter, something like that. And that's about the best we can do, because we just don't have the money, because the entire way the open source community has created from itself from birth is we don't charge for this. So either it's you learn about it through word of mouth or you charge for it. And we ain't charging for it, because that takes away from the purpose of Linux.
Barbara?
So
okay, what I think, going back to, marketing versus advocating, I think marketing is the wrong word, because when we think of computers and marketing, what do you think? You think Microsoft and Apple. They've got huge budgets for that. We don't. And I think one of the things you have to do is, get the information out to people, and also be aware there's something else. And this is what I learned, and I think it's what I told you the other day, Rocco. Linux is not for everyone who wants to leave Windows. I have 3 friends, of which they all ended up going and getting Macs from Windows. And I would never, only one of them would I suggest Linux, but she couldn't, because she was working on her dissertation and she couldn't change that. She still needed OneNote and all this stuff. But the other 2, I would never put them on. I mean, one of them even texted me one day about, oh, my Mac says I've got 300, haven't updated or backed it up in 380 days. Should I back up my computer? Yes, Colleen, back up your computer. So those are the people we don't ever want to get on. But really, there are people that it's just because they don't really care. They don't want to. Sometimes they can't even wrap their brains around what they're using.
They don't want to upset the apple cart.
Huh? Yeah. and as it is, they still have sometimes once in a while they'll have problems with their Mac.
They just want to use it till it dies.
Exactly. There you go. And they
and then come to you to fix it when it does die, and then ask why you can't fix it.
I've been there.
They'll actually come and say, help me pick out a new computer, because the thing is so old and whatever. But I think what we have to do is go when people like I've had in all the time that I've been teaching, I've had very few students even realize that I'm not using Windows or Mac or whatever. I did have one student who knew about Linux, used Linux. His father won't let them use anything else but Linux. And he's a survivalist type, one of the prepper types. And he's a little bit on the paranoid side, the father, not the kid. But out of all the kids that I deal with, and I live in an area where we have a major state university, and we've got a huge engineering school, and most of it is programming one way or another, or electrical engineering and software engineering. And most people don't use Linux.
Well, speaking of marketing, just so you guys know, Barbara will be the next Linux Spotlight episode, and that's what she's referring to right there. So, just throwing it out there. Okay, back to the Linux question. Steve, you wanted to get in on this.
I keep envisioning commercials like what Google did with Android a few years ago, where it wasn't Samsung, it wasn't Nexus, it wasn't any name brand, it was all just Android, and commercials like some kind of like commercial in that vein of Linux, with the different desktops and all that. That's like the kind of marketing that I envision. says a lot without saying a lot. You don't have to mention Ubuntu, Arch or all
that. Big Pod?
Just about marketing. Even for me, when I was first trying Linux desktop on an older laptop, I before that I watched all sorts of videos about how Linux doesn't have driver issues, doesn't have so and so problems, and so on. And I won't point anyone out, but first thing I installed Fedora, and no wireless card. Why? Because it was Broadcom, and I was still a complete noob. I didn't know, and I almost gave up on Linux. Thankfully, at the time, I then tried Ubuntu, and my love for Linux began. But also, like as Barbara said about people knowing Linux, I am in a classroom full of IT students, and one other guy beside me knew about Linux, and he knew it because he saw me using Linux for better part of a year before that. So you should understand that. And even when we had to, for a class, 4 hours, we had to install Linux and do certain tasks. It was basically me and professor running around the class, helping with every task, because nobody could do anything, especially when it came to terminal. Even when I gave them where to go, they didn't know how to Google anything. And that's IT students. So I think Linux requires a special mindset, especially if you want to use it at least somewhat more than just web browser and possibly music player or video player. You need special mindsets to look things up, to find things, because as it is on Windows, there's a lot you can ask. Ask a friend, pick up a phone and call that one guy. On Linux, you can't really do that if you are only one in like 100-kilometer radius, or like for me 10-kilometer radius that uses Linux.
Joshua?
Yeah, hello, I'm here. I'm sorry. Okay, you guys are all forgetting that Linux is open source. We need to all go back. Instead of talking about marketing, we need to realize what was the point of Linux? Why was it made, and why do we use it? So, I mean, we're not trying to turn Linux into the next Windows. I mean, I'd be really shocked if we are. But I mean, we can't just rush marketing and try to make money. This is open source. It's free. Anyone can use it under certain rules.
But just because it's open source doesn't mean you can't make money. Look at elementary.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't
Red
think
Hat.
that when you say, are we trying to turn it into Microsoft? I don't think it depends on what you mean by that.
No.
Do you mean by Microsoft as a corporation, or do you mean that most people use Microsoft? I would like Microsoft, or I would like most people to use Linux like Microsoft.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm in the same boat as you, Rocco. Like personally, for me, I've always advocated the best tool for the job. For some people, that's Windows. Some people, that's Mac. Some people, that's free BSD or Haiku or 9,000 other different OSs that are out there. But to me, I think the best tool for most users is Linux. However, reality, I also, again, so it's not for everybody. To somebody else's, I think it was Barbara's point, a lot of people just want to get stuff to work. A lot of them aren't going to care about the underlying ideologies and the philosophies and all the other stuff like that we might, like the hardcore people might. At the end of the day, it's, can they get what they need to done? Flat out. That is the marketing that we don't do. And I am with you that I think marketing is the wrong word, but I also think advocacy is the wrong word, because advocates gloss over the bad too.
Well, I think sometimes we take words and we pull them apart for every like the perfect definition of a word. And I agree that words mean something, But at some point, like when we're in a discussion like this, you're not always going to say the perfect term or the perfect word. So anytime that I would mention marketing or advocacy or anything like that, it would never have anything. I mean, I hope you guys know that it would never have anything to do with covering up the bad or lying in any way. That doesn't even enter the equation. So.
No, but like to me, marketing means a coordinated effort, say, between like Red Hat and Canonical on the desktop front to actually put computers with Linux in front of people at a Best Buy, at a X, Y, or Z. That to me is coordinated effort. Let them try it. Give them the option. If it doesn't work, oh well.
That's why we're going to do that all together with the hashtag Best Buy. Hashtag Storm Best Buy.
Hashtag install. If Chicken was here, it would be hashtag install elementary.
Well, let me read Mitchell's comment in chat. It says there's tons of Linux marketing, but you won't see it because it's marketing between large corporations advertising enterprise Linux, not desktop Linux. Enterprise devs think desktop Linux is a joke. I don't know any enterprise devs to confirm that they think it's a joke, but I do agree there is marketing done by the corporations. When I talk about marketing, I'm more talking about each one of us can advocate, market, promote, whatever word you think is the perfect term. We can all do that for Linux. Joe, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. To the point of marketing, the place that marketing would come into place is kind of what Matt touched on, is if you're going to have Dell, Lenovo, and these other companies who are going to put them on a shelf to promote a specific computer that's going to have that specific operating system. I do not necessarily agree that everybody that hears the word Linux is a deer in the headlights and doesn't know what you're talking about. I think what it comes down to is a comfort level or frame of mind. What that means is, okay, they're used to using Windows, they're used to using a Mac or whatever. But the reality of it is most of us here started somewhere in a mindset to come over to Linux, and we were ready to do it when the time was there. And I think that's where Linux has to be presented in that same light, that much like I mentioned before, when XP was ended, I had a bunch of people that were all of a sudden willing to try to change over to something completely different because they did not like what they heard about Windows 10. They didn't even see it. It's just what they heard about it. Now, somebody going to a Mac, yes, there's software that goes along with it that people are familiar with, but the truth of the matter is that's one step closer to Linux when you think about it, what the system's built off of. So I do think that as much as, like you said, yeah, it's a choice of words. One of the things, coming back to what you said earlier, Rocco, when you opened this segment up, was about some of the comments about people, how they feel about this stream here or whatever. That's what makes this an exceptional show, is because you have so many diverse people from diverse backgrounds or types of users or whatever, and we discuss things, and we also learn. I've come on here and had one mindset and then had it change because I've heard other things, and I would hope that somebody would else feel the same way, that maybe I've offered something that made somebody think a little bit differently on how to look at something. And that's where conversation comes in. You're not judging each other. You're not judging people. Yeah, there are formats. I'm going to use them as an example. The View. I can't stand watching that show because everybody talks over themselves constantly for the whole show. That's not the case with this. When this show grew, we got to a point where you took charge and you said, hey, just like with how we're doing the distro challenges every 2 weeks now, and it's, let's raise our hands and to try to keep a little order. And it's worked. And so again, somebody who may not want to watch this, that's their choice. But the reality is, I think the majority of people that do feel are getting something good out of it because we have opinions and we share them. And as far as how Linux goes, Linux has brought so many people together. I mean, look at, we're from all over the world right now. You're looking at Australia, you're looking at New Zealand, you're looking, oh, and by the way, Big Pod, can you get your goatee back from Derek, because it seems funny seeing it over in the wrong part of the screen. Anyway, just wanted to
wait till I grow my mullet out.
But that's basically where I was going. I just wanted to make the point to Mark. I think marketing does have its place when you're talking about putting it on a shelf for a specific unit to try to promote a computer. But if you're talking about Linux itself, I think it's a matter of how we promote it or educate people on it.
Derek?
Yes, sir.
You got an opinion on this?
Not especially. I don't think nobody's trying to market Linux. I mean, no company is interested in marketing desktop Linux. So it's all the community, right? It's just it's us, and we don't have the funds to market, so it's never going to happen. That's my thoughts.
Vince?
Yeah.
I think further to what everyone else has been saying, I think all of us would agree that we want more people to be using the Linux desktop. But you have to remember the point where what the average computer user is, who the new user could be. And there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of people trying to sell Windows, a lot of people trying to sell Mac OS. And if you start talking about intricacies like semantics, if you start talking intricacies like drivers, or even the people representing who the community is, you're going to lose a lot of people to those intricacies. People just want to be able to use their computer.
Yep. Tony.
Yeah, I was gonna say the conversation that Adam brought up last week about his roommate and giving her a laptop with Linux installed as if she'd gone into Best Buy and bought it. I thought was really interesting. But sometimes we get presented. A friend of mine in church came to me a few weeks ago and said, "Look, I've got an old, my laptop's getting on a bit. It started slowing down. 7 years old. I need some advice about buying a new laptop." So one of the first things I asked her was what she used it for, and she said, "Well, I access my emails online. I do a little bit of word processing. I do a little bit of social media stuff, and that's about it with it at home." She does most of her computer work at work, for the job that she does. So I said to her, I said, "Well, I might be able to, put an operating system on that I use called Linux." Told her what it was about, invited her around to come and have a look at my laptop. She had a look at it. She liked it. So I stuck an SSD in a 7-year-old laptop, which was a nice dual core machine in its day. Upgraded the RAM a little bit because she only had 3 gig of RAM in it. So we put a match pair of, made it into 4 gig, stuck Linux on it, gave it to her. She rang me once. She's had it 3 months now, and it's doing the job that she wants it to do. So if we check the use case scenario of individual users when they know that we're into computers and they ask for advice, that's one of the ways we can promote Linux in a use case for that particular individual. With another individual, if they'd have turned around to me and said, "I'm a high power gamer," I'd have said, "You need a gaming laptop and you probably need Windows." I would have explained about, the new stuff that's coming out on Linux, but I'm not a gamer, so I couldn't have given them the best advice on that.
Right.
But I think you're right, Rocco, in as much as every single one of us has to do something to promote Linux and market it ourselves. Because one of the things that I found astonishing when I was at Self is people were coming up and they knew me, not because they knew Zeb, but they knew Zeb. And the fact that I'm always wearing Mr. Mark Greaves' Peppermint logos. And a number of people that came up to me went, "Oh, you're the Peppermint guy, Zeb from Destination Linux." So they didn't recognize this, they recognized that. So you're all saying marketing's the wrong word for Linux. I disagree. We've got to market it out there, but not in the traditional sense that you guys think about marketing, because without that marketing, without getting that laptop into Best Buy and other electronic outlets, you're not going to get as big as Microsoft. You're not going to get as big as Google Chrome. You don't need millions and millions of dollars of advertising revenue. You just need to get the product in front of people's faces. And I guess that costs millions, but hey, I think you're right to use the word marketing, but you can perhaps put promotional or advocating in as well.
I think those were a couple of really good points that were just made by Tony and Zeb, that as individuals, we can market, promote, advocate, especially when we recognize a specific use case where Linux fits. My son and I were able to put 2 computers in his high school where he goes, and all the rest of their computers are running Windows 10, but 2 of them are running MX Linux because it fit the use case. But on top of that, I'm wondering if maybe we're being a little too hard on ourselves. Is it possible that there's a lot of promotion going on in Linux? It's just as fragmented as Linux is, and the community is fragmented. You look at how Martin Wimpress does a great job of promoting Ubuntu Mate by talking about it, by writing blogs, by getting on different media, getting on the different podcasts. And as a result, there's quite a few Ubuntu Mate users, I think, that are out there. You go to a Linux Fest, it used to be years ago, there was those marketing teams that were all volunteer for some of the big distros like Ubuntu, and they'd have a table and they'd hand out the CDs, or there still is to this day a Fedora marketing group that's all volunteer, and so they promote Fedora. There maybe is a lot of marketing and promotion that's happening. It's just so fragmented. We're not seeing the unified effort that some other tech company is able to bring forward because our marketing and promotion is fragmented by all the distros that we're using.
I think that's a great point, Steve, because it's not concentrated like it is from a specific company. Like, I bring up the example of that video that Microsoft put out on the terminal. But that was a concentrated effort from a big tech company. There is a lot of marketing going on, and even look at the OpenSUSE YouTube videos that come out all the time on their channel. And so I guess there is marketing going on. It's not to the level or of the concentration that you'd like to see, especially on the desktop. It is fragmented from, Red Hat to Fedora to OpenSUSE, and it's like, I would prefer it to be, hey, the Linux desktop, but maybe that'll never happen.
Well, we'll see.
How many people in here got at least one person to switch and use Linux? Okay, out of that one person, how many people did they get to switch? Or you don't know?
Not sure.
Like getting actually
at least one person to switch from the show of hands I've seen. It was a majority of us. And that's how it's getting around. I got 3 people to switch.
Yeah, but we're only
Got to
20
switch
people.
are mostly tech illiterates that, they now have computers that they can use that run Linux, but they don't know enough or get deeply enough into computers to pass it on to others.
Mhm.
They send them to me.
I was going to say, Rocco, to your point, I think sometimes as Linux users, where we're so entrenched in it, though, that we tend to forget that when we promote, market, advocate, whatever term you want to use for it, that we always try to make it sound like, not us specifically, but we try to make it fit into people that it might not fit for.
Right.
And I think that's well, no, we a lot of people who promote Linux or advocate Linux, whatever term you want to use, try to make it sound like a one size fits all. Like it's Shangri-La basically. And
are you trying to say that I can't get anybody through an Arch Linux install? Because I'm convinced
I think you would give it one good effort.
I'd like to see him try and get me through one.
I got through 2 Arch installs. I'm good. I don't see the point.
I got through the Arch install through Derek's video.
I think I could talk anybody through it.
Why don't you just try Linux from scratch?
No, but I think, Matt, your point, you have a point where there are people out there, and maybe to the point of these people that are commenting like I'm talking about, that they do gloss over the bad parts.
They do.
That they do kind of cover up things because of their excitement to show off Linux. They give you that, hey, you should use Linux, and it may not be right for that person. And that's not what I personally or we as a community should be or are advocating. So from this point on, when I mention the word marketing, advocating, it just understand what I'm talking about.
Well, I'd like to point out that up until, we'll say, maybe 5 or maybe a little longer, so years ago, desktop Linux was not really something that the quality was for, the masses. It's certainly coming a long way, and it's growing. I think exponentially. So what did we have to market, I guess, is the question. Linux has been around a long time and is very solid, but as far as running it on a desktop, until recent times, the quality of it isn't good. It's easier to market something that more people can use. And, there's a lot of advancements, things like Proton in Steam. That's getting a lot of the gamers over here, and making it viable. So
that's such a great point, though, Dan. We have come such a long way in just the last year or two that we didn't really. I don't know if we had something to market before then.
Yeah, I don't mean that to sound harsh, but I mean it's kind of true, right?
It's true.
Linux no longer needs to hurt.
Yeah,
exactly.
From what I've been seeing, there's actually probably fewer and fewer people that I can think of that wouldn't benefit from using Linux.
Well, and the thing is, you can market it in so many different ways. If you wanted to do, like, if a company wanted to do a quote unquote Steam machine, market it as an appliance console.
Right. I disagree with Dan a little bit because I thought Compiz 10, 15 years ago was great for marketing.
Oh, yes. The wobbly windows are great.
Hey, I still use wobbly windows. Thank you.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
But Eric, you wanted to make a point?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My point was, I agree. We have made such tremendous progress in a very short amount of time that I can see where it can be a viable option for many more people than it ever had been. But I still contend that it is a tool. And just like any kind of specialized tool for any job, there are so many different products out there that only appeal to a very select minority of people. You may want to go to Home Depot and rent a floor sander and redo your hardwood floors, or you may want to, work on your car and need some kind of special tool to work on the engine, an ODB, the code reader, whatever. Those things exist. People know they exist, especially when they go and look for them. So to me, Linux is a tool. And I agree that marketing is a big umbrella term. We can use that for anything. But whenever someone says to me marketing, it means that you are reaching out for the purpose of informing someone that something exists. And to me, because it's a tool that is used by a specific subset of people, and there are certainly people that enjoy it just as a hobbyist thing, that's where I think the focus is, right? Dell is building laptops for developers and scientists who are into artificial intelligence. Why? Because that's the people who need it.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, so the only thing I've got against that is that if Linux is a tool, Windows is a tool. But why has Windows got billions of users? Because it's not as good a tool as Linux.
That's a fair point. That's
because
true
we're bad
now,
at marketing.
Zeb. That's true now.
No, because they got it into schools and they hooked the kids early.
Mm-hmm.
Which on the flip, at the turn of the decade, you could have said that was Apple.
Yeah, and now
honestly, if you look at it 10 years from now,
Chrome
everybody's
OS.
going to be using Chrome.
Yeah, and right now it's Chrome OS.
It is
Around
Chrome
here
OS.
that the kids have to have a Linux laptop, and it's strictly for programming. I live in a state where we build cars. All the cars, they got Linux and the operating systems of them. They're teaching the kids how to program in Linux so they can make heads-up displays and all kinds of things that go in these vehicles.
But Toyota is actually a platinum member of the Linux Foundation.
Yeah, but most of that programming is done on Chromebooks and in Chrome OS. So it's not actually, it's technically Linux, but it's not the Linux that we play with for the most part.
It's kind of like Android is Linux,
But isn't it? I know my cousin, he's required to have Ubuntu on his laptop.
Go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say, isn't it true though? Yes, I agree with that. Windows has billions or millions of users, not billions, but
No, it has billions.
Isn't it true though that our community, for the most part, even here, is not Linux exclusive? I know Derek, I think he doesn't run any Windows at all. He only runs Linux. But the vast majority of our community, we're not willing to make the compromises that would be necessary to run only Linux. Even myself, I have a Windows box for some of my entertainment because Xfinity On Demand does not work on Linux at all. So I have to have a Windows box or Chrome OS box to watch Xfinity.
I have to dual boot Windows for gaming.
Yeah, same here. Well, see, here's the question though. But is that compromising, or is that using the best tool for the job?
Yes.
Bingo.
And that's where the question lies.
But if you compare that to the other users that are out there, not everybody wants to have multiple computers or dual boot or run a VM in order to not have those compromises. So if they don't want to compromise and just run Linux or have to do those other things of having a separate computer that has Windows or Chrome OS or a VM, then when they go out to choose their one computer, they're going to buy a Windows box or they're going to buy Mac OS.
And
then that's
along those
the
same
best
lines-
for them.
Yeah, and along those same lines, though, it's exactly the same as the Facebook users. They don't care. They just want to be on that place where all their mates are on. So all their mates are on Windows, so they're going to be on Windows. All their mates are on Facebook, they're going to be on Facebook. They don't want to go and try and find MeWe or Mastodon or all the rest. And that's the battle you've got with these people. It's the apathy of they don't care.
No, and they really don't. And unfortunately, also, the kids don't care. It's not just the adults, the kids don't care. They're just as happy to use a Chromebook and Google Docs and all that. I mean, I see that all the time. They're kids that, because they've been using Chromebooks for so long, they don't even know how to write a document in Word. I had to deal with that last school year because, hey, this does what they need to do. They're given a Chromebook because they're cheap. You know, $150, it doesn't matter what the kids do to them. But they don't care as long as it does what they need it to do. And
But I'm going to go back to what Matt said and say that I don't think it's an issue of compromise. It's an issue of just using the best tool of what Eric's point was trying to say for the job. For my everyday use, Linux is the best tool, and that's what I use. For a specific use case where I want to play, say, Battlefield 5, Linux is not the best tool for that job because it doesn't run on Linux, so I use Windows on a dual boot. I don't consider that a compromise. I consider that the best way to go.
Exactly, because Rocco, let's put this in gamer terms. Yeah, exactly. Linux is everywhere. But let's
into the house. Yeah.
Michael.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
I was going to say, let's put this in gamer terms for those that want to go that route. If you have a game that's exclusive to a Switch, a PS4, an Xbox One, and which one are you going to choose? You're going to choose the one that you have to go to play that.
Yep.
In your case, if you want to play Battlefield 5, you can either go Mac OS or you can go Windows. Doesn't work too well in Linux, though, does it?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think it also goes back to what people were saying about marketing and about how covering up. Nobody's covering up the fact that Linux is not the best in every situation. Like for this specific example, I'll be the first one to say Linux is not the best thing. So we should be advocating for Linux, but we should do it in an honest, open, upfront way that covers all of the bases and give people don't give everybody Linux. Give people that want to have Linux on their computer, give them Linux.
Very true.
And on that note, we're out of time.
Conveniently.
I'm sorry, but we got the last words to do and everything.
Yeah.
We could go on for another hour with this conversation, but we got to run. So, PZ, last word.
Last words. If you want a Linux that just works, Peppermint OS all day, every day.
Such a marketer.
Yeah.
Eric, last word.
Market.
My last word is a very quick story about a Twitter post from Nick at the Linux Experiment saying somebody was giving him crap for saying GNOME versus GNOME, and then I had said that I say it both ways just to annoy people, and then the GNOME Twitter account wrote back and said technically it's pronounced with the hard G, but calling calling us by our phonetic English pronunciation gnome is just fine. After 22 years, we've heard it said every possible way. So there you go, from the source. You can all rest easy now if you say it however you say it.
Gnome
So
gnome.
with that, have a great
Gnome,
week.
gnome, yeah.
Genome.
Aris, last word.
Thank you very much for the stream. It was a pleasure to be here on tonight, and I also want to make sure to see Barbara in Linux Spotlight. Looking forward to that.
Yep.
Thank you.
The bearded wonder. Go ahead.
Thanks, Rocco. I've just got to disagree with Zeb because as a Mintcast presenter, I've got to stick up for my beloved Mint. So if you want an easy system, stick Mint on something. But thanks for making this possible, Rocco, and thanks everyone for being here. And when I do join, I give up a bit of sleep, but I have a good time. So it's great to be here, and thanks very much.
Good to have you here, Tony.
Thanks.
Chris, last word, brother.
Well, I wasn't able to get a word in edgeways tonight, so I think what I'll do is I'll just post it out on Discourse, and that way I can ramble on and people can type in too long, didn't read. So
Sorry, Chris.
that's all right. I mean, I have other outlets.
Tony, last word.
Thanks for the show, Rocco. Interesting, very good. Just a little bit of marketing. Next week, it'll be a double edition. So I look forward to that. I might be a bit more tired than I am at the moment, but nevertheless, I will attempt to make both shows. So
Yeah.
everybody as now knows that there's 2 next week. That's my bit of marketing. Take care all till next week.
There you go. Dan, last word.
All right, thanks as always. And I'd feel remiss if I did not do a little bit of marketing on my own. So please feel free to try out Lubuntu. You can check us out at lubuntu.me. And, look forward to next week.
Dan, is that marketing or advocating?
Yeah, take your pick.
Okay. Barb.
Okay. Oh, you guys, you're wrong. It's Ubuntu Mate. That's it. It's stable. It's nice. It works. There you go. Peppermint, no. Mint, no. Lubuntu, maybe. But Ubuntu Mate.
And you're interviewing her. Why?
This is the Ubuntu Mate fangirl.
Yes.
Yeah. And just a quickie, Dan.
Self-labeled.
Just a quick one for Dan. You said take your pick, but I want a shovel.
Oh.
Wow.
Is Michael here?
Yeah, Michael would love that. All right, Thomas, last word.
Run whatever you want to run, as long as it's not Windows or Mac OS. But for gaming, Draugr OS is always the best.
Does Draugr OS run Battlefield 5 now, Thomas?
I haven't tested it because I haven't had the money to buy Battlefield 5.
Oh, okay.
But the moment I have money to buy Battlefield 5, I will test it.
But it does have a low latency kernel.
There you go.
It does.
And I'll disagree that you should run whatever you want to run, regardless of whether it's Windows, Mac, or Linux. Big Pod, last word.
Use the tool that works best for your workflow, for your task at hand. That's my philosophy. But we're talking about marketing. I would like to market Duplisig. Now we have a snap package. If there is any problem, contact me or Magnus over on Telegram. You can contact me on Discourse or just post an issue on our GitLab.
Big Pod, real quick, tell us what Duplisig is.
Duplisig is a software, deduplication software for images. It finds images, and unlike many other scripts, it allows you to select if you want to delete specific duplicate.
Very nice. Very nice. Colin, last word.
Very good marketing there, Big Pod. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good chat tonight. Enjoyed that. It's good to hear people's perspectives on marketing for Linux. So thanks, Rocco and Zeb. Always love being here. And I'll see you all next week. And Dan, you're looking very relaxed tonight.
Dan, last word.
As usual, Rocco, thanks for hosting a stream tonight. It's kind of been the highlight of my day. As for Linux, there's going to be people that need to use Windows. I understand that. I hope other people take that into account too. I have to use Windows, but I'm down to where I have 2 apps that I use in a virtual machine, and that's it. And with that said, it's all about marketing.
Someday, I hope it's to the point where I can switch full-time to Linux. Right now is not that day.
I understand games are just, that niche thing that they booby trap them to work, on Windows only, and it is what it is.
Yep. Vince, last word?
Thank you, Rocco, Zeb, Eric. Just a question. Did we just have a 20-minute discussion so people would get off your back about your marketing?
Maybe.
I don't have any Linuxy products to market, but Vegemite's a good source of vitamin B. People get into.
That's terrible, dude. It's terrible.
I'll have to agree with that, Rocco.
That's awesome.
No, it's not. Stop it, Derek. Steve, last word.
Thanks, Rocco, for once again hosting my weekly lug. Glad that I could be here for the whole time and participate. I enjoy the second hour where we have a little discussion topic. I think that's a nice little addition that you've made to the show. And thanks again for great to see everybody, and I enjoy my lug. See you on Discourse.
Yep. Joe, last word.
As always, thank you for welcoming us into your world, Rocco. This is how this all got started. It's a fabulous place. Throughout time here, we've all kind of some and others have had taglines like Derek, with Linux has got to hurt a little bit, and I've said, if Linux is life, if you started living yet, that kind of thing. There's a lot of truth to that. Now I can see the marketing thing coming where it's getting to be so endless, it just won't stop. But yeah, I know. I was waiting for the guys to go.
Wow.
I always look at Rocco when I try to crack a joke to see if I flop or not. But no, the truth of the matter is where else can you go, seriously, and have something that, whether you call it a tool or whatever it is, that has actually created such friendships. That to me is the biggest, most strongest passion I have for this, aside from using this as my daily driver, is the people I've gotten to meet through here. And I almost felt a little guilty last week because I wanted to go down the list, and Rocco, like I mentioned, missing out on Zeb and Eric, but I also would have had a great chance to meet you at Self and many others. And to me, that's something that if we could ever, you referenced about maybe pulling a mid, central gathering place together. If we could ever do that, I would certainly love that. I just think we would have a blast in person.
I think that's something that we have to do at some point. I still haven't got anywhere trying to organize it, but I think that would be so awesome.
Yeah. Well, when it happens, it'll happen. I'm sure it will. But I do want to thank each and every one of you for being good friends. And I hope that someday we can all be in the presence of each other. But if this is as good as it gets, that's good enough for me too, because I look forward to this as often as I can be here. Thank you.
Dave, last word.
Thank you, Rocco, Zeb, and all the Biddle crew who make this happen. Thank you to everyone in Zoom and everybody in the YouTube chat. And Pep is great and Mint is great. But by the way, I run Arch.
Matt, last word.
As always, Rocco, Zeb, Eric, Dan, all you guys, basically everybody. I always enjoy being here. It's always fun. Always great to talk Linux and talk shop. It's what's not to like about the things that we love and have hobbies about. As far as marketing, promoting, advocacy, whatever you want to call it, just keep it honest. Show the beauty. Show the warts.
Yep. Derek?
Well, Dave stole my tagline by the way I use Arch, but instead I'm going to go with Rocco. He said it. Use whatever operating system you want. Use whatever software you want. long as it's free and open source and licensed under a free license, preferably the GPL. All right.
I love it. Steve, last word.
I can't wait to see the edition Wednesday to see how many times Barb's cat steals the screen.
It might have happened once or twice,
Yeah, it might
Steve. Just
happen.
saying.
And
Tonight
but
was
as
worth it.
always, thanks. And Zeb, yep, the pep.
All right, Daniel, last word.
Rocco, thank you very much for the stream. Thanks to everybody, Eric, Zeb, Dan, for all the hard work. I enjoy this group, and you know, if it can ever happen that we're all in the same room together, first round's on me. I said it here, and yeah, I don't really have anything cool to market other than probably a really crappy endless video that I did, my first video that I put up on my channel. So
Congrats.
Well, thank you.
If you got a link to that, Daniel, we'll put it in the YouTube chat.
Yeah,
People can look at it.
I'll dig that up.
Put a link in the Zoom chat, and we'll get
Okay.
it. We'll get it in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, we'll be the judge of whether it's crappy or not, buddy.
All right. Yeah,
Have you seen my videos? Come on.
I don't know. This is that
You've
first one.
seen
You know,
mine, right?
I've heard you on some of the spotlights saying, you know, the first one. It's
Yeah.
usually horrible, but you have to keep it. So this is probably the horrible first one, other than some of the other like really bad ones that have nothing to do with it.
I'm
Dan,
gonna be so embarrassed.
I was gonna say, Dan, you can watch mine from 10 years ago, and
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Dan, at least it's up there and not like some that were created and never got posted. Rocco knows where we're coming from with that one.
Moving
Or
on.
people like
Moving
me
on.
are afraid to make one even to start.
All right. So there's that, and yeah, use whatever OS you want to use, but because Linux is already won because they run the internet, so it doesn't really matter.
Bill, last word, brother.
Thank you, Rocco, and everybody that does everything for this. Dan, I drink Blanton's, so bring a big checkbook.
He said the first round, Bill. He didn't say all of them.
You didn't say how big that bottle. Oh, never mind. Just one of the things I wanted to say. I wanted to do a shout out to Eric. He's been doing a lot of cool videos as he's been traveling and doing some stuff that he has to do. He's been reaching out to everybody and doing some really cool videos. So I wanted to shout out to Eric. And the other thing I want to say is use whatever operating system and whatever tools you need to use to do your job. And don't shame people that use a different operating system or a different tool set. It doesn't make us look good to do that.
Agreed.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
By the way,
I'm changing by the way to as a matter of fact.
Oh my gosh.
As a matter of fact.
And I've just put Daniel's video link into the YouTube chat.
All right, so everybody go watch that and give him some constructive feedback on his video.
Like the smash button.
There you go. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us. We are over time and overdue. I would like to thank the Endless OS developers for doing what they do, for making a project that has a use case that's a really good use case for Linux. So that is much appreciated. I also want to mention, promote what Dan promoted. What did you promote, Dan? No, who was it? Tony. Tony promoted the Biddle Europe edition next week. I completely forgot about it. So stay tuned next Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time for the Biddle Europe, and then the regular show will be at 8 p.m. And if you haven't seen the latest Linux Spotlight, you should take a look at it. I thought it was a pretty awesome episode with Chris Titus. So check that out. But next Wednesday will be Barb's episode, and that was such a great episode. I'm sorry. That was a great episode. You will love it.
I feel sorry for whoever's coming after Barb. That's all I gotta say.
All right, that's going to do it for us. We will see you all next week when we give our final thoughts on Endless OS. Until then, long live Linux.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.